Hello, my friends. Rob Roselli coming to you once again. Today being Tuesday, January the 3rd, 2016, the first show of 2017, rather. Having a little slow start here. Boxofsunglasses.com is the website. And again, Facebook, Rob Roselli1, Twitter, at Rob Roselli. And I've been on in a couple weeks, holidays, other family obligations, this sort of thing. I will try to be on here Tuesday and Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I do have work obligations in addition to family obligations, so if I'm not here, you can always go back, look at the archives of previous shows, and again, boxofsunglasses.com, and the lead page, or the opening page of the site, you'll have links to this. Did a live show as well as the archived YouTubes. Okay. And just again to review, Donald Trump is going to be president, I think, in 3 weeks. There's all kinds of things going on, by the way, that you're not hearing about on the so-called, Fox News. Fox likes to pass themselves off as the not lamestream media, or the legacy media, as they themselves call it. And they're right in the middle of it. Okay, they're the fake conservative neocon warmongers. Okay, the creeps who hold the truth from you and pass themselves off as your friends and the fellow conservatives and this sort of thing. But anyway, a lot going on in the world. Obama, the son of Satan, Pharaoh Barry, to whom this book is dedicated. This book is really about, by the way. Pleased to meet you. Available on my site. It's a history of the Egyptian / Greek god of travel, wisdom, math, speaking. Okay, the trickster god known as Hermes, or Thoth, or Horus, or the son of God, or the pharaoh of ancient Egypt, or Pharaoh Barry. Okay, the image of the beast. Okay, not the Antichrist. Okay, not the comic book Antichrist and all this nonsense. And we'll get into that a little bit tonight. As usual, the comic book Antichrist and Israel, as God's chosen people, and stand with Israel, and also the stupidity. We'll get to that in a second. The un-American genocidal complex, okay, again, covering Robert Christian, okay, one and the same with the aforementioned Thoth, or Hermes, or Horus, or the Pharaoh, or the image of the beast, or the spirit of Antichrist, mentioned in 1 John chapter 2, okay, and 1 John chapter 3, okay. There is no Antichrist clown character mentioned in the book of Revelation, okay, by John, okay, the elderly John, the Apostle John, in around AD 95 when he wrote Revelation. Okay, he was very specific not to put the words Antichrist in the book of Revelation. Okay, and there's a reason for that, and we'll get to that in a future show. But anyway, this is the real. Here's your beast, okay? Here's your Satan, okay? Your Robert Christian, founder of the Georgia Guidestones, March 22nd, 322, Skull and Bones, 1980, United Nations, to bring us back, the world government. The genocide documented in this book, okay? This was the result of World War II, the supposed war to end all wars, okay? And of course, also we had since then, as Rockefeller founded wars, communism and this sort of thing. The Rockefeller founded UN, the Rockefeller genocidal environmental movement, okay, again, courtesy of the Rockefeller founded University of Chicago and many of the other Rockefeller founded universities, okay, the Rockefeller founded, along with the Rothschilds and a few others, Federal Reserve Bank, okay, who gave us, eugenics, Adolf Hitler, the American Birth Control League, okay, which we know today as Planned Parenthood. So we are seeing death on the grand scale to the tune of hundreds of millions, okay? And I documented here, as I've said in the past, deaths, spiking the smallpox vaccine with the AIDS virus, and, starting Adolf Hitler, that might get you 50 to 100 million dead, okay? That's Bush League, okay? That's child's play, okay? Compared to what they have in store for us, okay? So your comic book Antichrist is just that. Okay, your comic book Antichrist, Israeli, Arab conflict Antichrist, by the so-called biblical experts, stand with Israel, and all this stupidity is just that. Okay, it's Cartoon Network variety. This is where the real evil is. Okay, as documented here, as documented here. Okay, this is the first book available on the site. And again, this is a PDF download. There's your Eye of Apollo, or Apollyon of Revelation 9. Okay, the God behind the Son of God, or the image of the beast, Thoth, Hermes, or Mercury. Okay, who just so happens to be aligned with the 18th, or the 6 plus 6 plus 6 degree of the Rose Cross degree of Freemasonry. And where else did we see the Rose Cross? And this is a very quick review. Okay, where else? Oh, there's U.S. News and World Report. Okay, there's your symbol. Okay, don't worry, it's not a conspiracy. Okay, it's just a conspiracy theory, right. Here is, the Invisible College, which gave rise to what's called the Royal Society in Britain, which gave us the British Roundtable groups, which again morphed into the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergs, the Skull and Bones, etc., the Federal Reserve, all this other stuff. There's your rose plus your cross, your male plus your female, your 18th or 6 plus 6 plus 6 degree of Freemasonry. Here you have little baby Lucifer floating around in the air, okay, guiding this whole thing kind of along, just filled with occult symbolism. Okay, but again, that's not the goal of tonight's show. All right. The goal, actually, well, just to very briefly explain that Trump, be that as it may, Trump is the eye of the storm. I don't really believe Trump is being fully honest with the American people. Okay, he's not a Christian. He's not a true conservative. He's a lot better than the alternative, Queen Jezebel. Nonetheless, I'm going to say this, that the people that loathe Donald Trump, the useful idiots, these dumb college kids that go to, all these, universities, so-called, they don't hate Trump per se. They really hate America. That's really what's going on here. Okay, let's just call it for what it is. Okay, it's not an anti-Trump the person movement. It's an anti-American movement. Okay, and again, who founded all the universities and most of the education, the media complex. Again, it's the same names keep popping up: the J.P. Morgans, the Rockefeller clan, the Rothschilds, a few minor players, Carnegie's. The same people behind the Federal Reserve System. Okay, that's your quote conspiracy. All right, that's the center of Revelation 17 and 18, as I point out line by line in my line by line breakdown of Mystery Babylon USA, right there on my site, again, boxofsunglasses.com, and it reads just like today's newspaper. Okay, just as the world in Revelation 17, it says the beast, which is the world, okay, hates the whore, which is the United States. Okay, that's pretty much your current events. Okay, the world is really starting to get tired of the United States and all its so-called wars for democracy. It's meddling in affairs all over the world. Its scam Federal Reserve System, which is about to bankrupt the entire world. Okay, people are really getting fed up. Okay, we're creating power vacuums all over the Middle East with these wars for democracy or wars for freedom. We're defending our freedom, or whatever stupid line Fox, whatever the Fox News stupid line of the day is, defending our freedom or guarding our rights or whatever. Meanwhile, the D.H. Stasi, and Farrell Barry and his National Defense Authorization Acts are stomping on a Constitution day in and day out. But you don't hear about that. All you hear about is the defending our freedom. But be that as it may, okay, the nations in the world are looking at the United States as a bunch of hypocrites and a bunch of out-of-control psychopaths, and I'm not sure that they're that inaccurate. Okay, it's just the United States. This is not my United States. This is not the constitutional United States. This is the Federal Reserve Corporation, okay, formerly known as the United States. Okay, the United States does not exist anymore, and Trump ain't bringing it back. As a matter of fact, if Trump gets into the White House, okay, if he gets into the White House in a few weeks, the economy is just going to crash, as it mathematically must. Okay, so all the University of Chicago and Harvard University economists and idiots can get on TV and argue about cutting spending and Air Force One and not buying it. We're 20 trillion or so in the online deficit, 100 to 200 trillion in the so-called unfunded liability, okay, deficit. Which includes, unfunded welfare payments, Social Security, and this sort of thing, as the government has stolen the money, from things like Social Security because they were saving the money because we were too stupid to save it for ourselves. All right, they've taken that money and they've spent it on other things. Okay, so look, I don't want to get into that whole thing right now, but the bottom line is, it's a debt-based economy. No matter what that complete imbecile Paul Krugman over at the New York Times has to say, you can't build an economy on debt. Okay, it's so stupid that I'm more and more convinced that John Carpenter's great movie They Live has to be true. Just logically speaking, not that I have any proof of that besides just basic logic, but there's so stupid people in the world saying so many stupid things. To me, it's just not logically possible that I'm this smart and these people are this dumb. Okay, there has to be a higher power controlling this whole thing. Okay, just like the Apostle Paul says in 2 Corinthians 4. Okay, the God of this world, that being Satan. Okay, again, Satan, the God of this world. Okay, remember, okay, he's given control of the world. Remember Matthew 4 and Luke 4. So you got Apollo here, you got Apollyon, okay, which is, Revelation 9, and then he's got his image, okay, which is Cain, which is, I believe, the biblical Satan. Okay, he's vanished, he's vanquished from the garden, and if you read the account of Cain, it reads exactly like this God of travel, this God of wisdom, okay, this ambassador God known as Thoth or Hermes or Mercury or the Pharaoh or Horus or the Son of God. Okay, there's a lot of similarity there. To me, I'm convinced that they're one and the same because, in fact, the mythologies of the world all reflect the Bible and vice versa. Okay, they're not contradictory at all. They're just the same story told from differing viewpoints. Okay, but I don't really want to go off on that tangent right now. But the important thing is that it's going to establish the crux of tonight's show. Which again, the three basic principles, in this show is the Bible is the core, the quote conspiracy, and it is in fact the core of everything. Okay, everything in life. Okay, and it's true. And you either take that or you leave it. Okay, that's just on this show. Obviously, we take it, and if you don't care to go on that premise, then you're probably wasting your time listening right now. Maybe go watch Fox News and let them keep lying to you. Okay, keep smiling, and Trump's going to get inaugurated and everything's going to be just peachy. Okay, I can't really help you in that regard. Okay, number two, which is going to be the subject of tonight's show, is this notion of Israel as God's chosen people. Okay, I was watching this idiot the other day on one of the so-called religious channels, okay, talking about how Israel is God's chosen people and we have to stand with Israel and send me a love offering of $75 or $100 or whatever it is, and we'll send the money right over to Israel. They're God's chosen people. People that don't believe this are indwelled by Satan, or because they speak out against Israel, which is about the dumbest thing, okay, one can imagine. And I'm being generous, and we're going to go through specific biblical passages because I think it's worth addressing, okay, because it's such bad theology. I can't believe that people buy into this crap. Well, people buy into it because they're lazy, okay. They sit in a mega church and listen to some clown tell them that Israel's God's chosen people, and we have to support Israel and stand behind Israel, and people that don't do this are replacement theology, and they don't know what they're talking about. And I'm the complete opposite. I say these idiots don't know what they're talking about. Absolutely not. Okay, these morons. And I'm being generous. Okay, because the alternative is to just outright con men, and I'm sure some of them are. Okay, with their love offerings and their peace offerings, and send the money to Israel. I'm sure they're getting a large percentage of that cut of money that's supposedly going to Israel. Okay, and the third basic principle, of course, is there is no doubt that the United States is the mystery Babylon of Revelation. Okay, and again, that's covered in the link on my site. But let's just run through some things here. Okay, Israel is God's chosen people is pretty much really a joke. And you go way back to Exodus, and I'm just going to go through very, very select few passages in the Old and New Testament to really just squash that whole belief. And I'll refer back to this on future shows, just so, because people are going to say, "Oh, what about Israel?" And what's about Israel? What about the temple in Israel? There's no stupid rebuilt temple that's going to happen in Jerusalem. Okay, it's just not biblical. Okay, the temple of God is the body of believers. Okay, and it's very, very explicit by the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians chapter 6. say 1 Corinthians 10, 1 Peter chapter 2. It can't be any more explicit as to what the temple of God really is, okay? And it's not some stupid rebuilt stone temple in Jerusalem with some comic book antichrist that's going to dwell in it, okay? It sells a lot of books. That nonsense does sell a lot of books. It makes people very rich, so-called Christians, but it's just not, it's not biblical, okay? It's simple as that, okay? Again, this is the real evil, okay? This is it right here, okay? Giving us social Darwinism and eugenics and Adolf Hitler and you know, and offing, you know, 12 million Jews and, you know, cripples and invalids and undesirables. Okay, that's real evil. Okay, and I'm not totally anti-Israel. Okay, I'm not saying what's happening to Israel is good. Nor am I saying that Israel went perfect. Okay? Israel's got some blood on its hands itself. Okay, but more so than not. Okay, I respect the nation of Israel and its position and all this sort of thing, and its right to defend itself. But as far as God's chosen people, again, it's absolutely horrible theology. But let's just, you know, people go back. I mean, people that say this, well, God made a covenant with Abraham in Genesis 12, and, you know, I bless them who bless you, and that's so stupid. Okay, because it's as if they read Genesis 12 and they closed their Bibles. They just stopped reading. Now, it's God's chosen people. That's like, you know, if I paid somebody, I offered to pay somebody, you know, $50 or $100 to mow my lawn, made a covenant or an agreement with somebody, and then they didn't cut it. They didn't do the work, i.e., you know, follow God's precepts and, you know, gather fruit or gather further believers. You know, that's the sort of thing Jesus in the New Testament, in John and Matthew 3, you know, gather fruit in keeping with repentance. Okay, and those that don't gather fruit will be gathered and thrown into the barn and burnt at the end of the age. Okay, and I'm paraphrasing very quickly Matthew chapter 3, but anyway, that's the duty that Israel, and they didn't do it in the Old Testament and certainly not in the New Testament. So it's as if I just, you know, I'm covenanted with somebody, you know, to cut the grass, and they just didn't do it, and they said, well, you still owe me the money. You'd be like, well, you didn't do the work. I mean, it's that simple. Okay, it's in other words, it's a two-way deal. It's a covenant. It's an agreement. It's not, God's not an eternal sucker. Okay, is what that is saying. Okay, and we can start. I'll just read through this here. Here it is. Let's just start in Exodus chapter 32. Okay, and this is God's chosen people. Now, Exodus is the second book of the Bible. Okay, and all through, you know, the book of Exodus, you know, the Jews that keep belly aching. You know, they lose faith in God, and they don't have any faith in, you know, Exodus 17. And, you know, he brought us out here to thirst of death. You know, and with the crashing and crossing of this Red Sea, or really the Sea of Reeds. Okay, to escape Pharaoh's army, he brought us out here to die, and that whole thing. But here's something in Exodus. You know, Exodus 32. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go, get thee down, for thy people which thou broughtest out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them, i.e., they broke the covenant, they broke the deal. All right, it's pretty simple stuff. They have made them a molten calf and worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Now, in just as an aside, in ancient Egypt, okay, the calf was a symbol of Isis, okay, the female whore goddess, i.e., the whore of Babylon, or what we know today as Gaia, or Mother Earth, okay, and the bull was symbolic of the sun god Ra, or Apis, whatever you want to call him, who was synonymous with the sun god Osiris, okay, who I believe is the Apollo, or the Apollyon of Revelation 9, which is different than the image of the beast, or Cain, or Thoth, Hermes, Mercury, Horus, or Satan, who walks the earth. Okay, Apollo is a different entity with them. We're getting into like Steve Quayle territory. I don't necessarily want to go there. Okay, you can read all about, you know, stevequayle.com and get further into that sort of thing. But anyway, and here we are. Here God's chosen people. And the Lord said unto Moses, I have seen these people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may wax hot against them, that I may consume them and I will make of thee a great nation. So in other words, he's saying, you know what? I'm going to kill them all. I chose you. You're my servant, and I'll start over with you. And Moses, basically, what happens is Moses pleads with the Lord and convinces him not to kill every Jew down there, worshiping this calf of Isis and or Osiris, the Egyptian god and goddess. Okay, the main, let's just call them the chief enemies. Okay, public enemy number one and number two of the Old Testament. Okay, and again, Pharaoh was the offspring of this unification of male plus female. Okay, you had the male Osiris, Apollo, Apis, On. Okay, and the female Isis, Hathor, Ishtar from Babylon, all synonymous, Diana, Artemis, Greek and Rome. Okay, that sort of thing. Okay, all this Minerva, Columbia. Okay, Columbia, the female goddess. Okay, remember Obama went to Occident, which is the male, or the Osiris. Okay, Occident, symbolic of the West, or Columbia. Okay, symbolic of the female goddess, or the East. Okay, you combine these two and you get the son of God, or Pharaoh. Hence, that's why they call him Pharaoh Barry. Okay, this is why Pharaoh Barry's, by the way, has got no records. Okay, no academic records, no background to this guy. He's never went to these colleges. Okay, the guy's a joke. He's a joke put out there by our criminal Illuminati overlords, which are not Donald Trump. Okay, American voters, sorry to disappoint you. Fox News watcher, sorry to disappoint you. But anyway, just getting back. So you got this calf in the middle of the desert, and God's ready to kill them all. Okay, so we're not even done with the second book of the Bible, the second book of the Old Testament, and his so-called chosen people. He's ready to kill them all except for Moses and maybe Aaron. Okay, his brother. So I mean, what am I missing there? Okay, again, a covenant's an agreement. Now that's pretty basic. That's just Exodus. That's just one chapter in Exodus. Okay, the whole Old Testament is this whole storyline, if you really read it, of God just being upset with Israel. Okay, his chosen people just keep whoring themselves. Okay, and speaking of that, okay, they're spiritually whoring themselves, just like Eve did in the, way back there with Satan. Okay, the serpent back there in Genesis chapter 3. Okay, that theme continues throughout the Old Testament. Okay, except it's the nation of Israel. Symbolic is called a whore. Okay, and if you read, for example, the book of Ezekiel. Okay, now here's something here that's very interesting. If you go to Ezekiel, you go to Ezekiel 23. This concept of a whore. Remember the whore of Babylon. Okay, which is today's United States. Okay, United States is the Israel of the New Testament. Okay, this backsliding, stiff-necked people. Okay, except in our case, we didn't have just prophets that Israel had. We had the ultimate prophet, Jesus himself. Okay, so a nation founded on Christian principles. Actually, we're much worse, the United States, from that standpoint, than Israel, the Old Testament. But nonetheless, here's Ezekiel chapter 23, verse 9. Let's just start with 18 or 17, and this is Israel. Okay, and the Babylonians came to her into the bed of love, and they defiled her with their whoredom, and she was polluted with them, and her mind was alienated with them. Of course, the Babylonians, the Chaldeans. Okay, almost famous, really, were the impetus for the Egyptian empire, who we just talked about, Isis and Osiris. Okay, I think the Babylonian god was Ishtar or Inanna, who was the female goddess. The male goddess, I want to say Marduk. Okay, was the equivalent. Okay, the sun god. Okay, the Tower of Babel. Okay, Nimrod. Okay, Nimrod, who I believe blanked his own mother. Okay, that's Tammuz. They had a child by the name of Tammuz. Okay, that's subject for another day. But anyway, Nimrod is an equivalent to Apollo, or the beast. Nimrod, Apollo, Osiris are basically the same person. Okay, so the point is Nimrod in Babylon was very much the occult the source of occultism in the Old Testament. So here's Israel, playing the harlot with them. And then a little further down the road, she multiplied her whoredom. She doted out upon their paramours, whose flesh is as the flesh of asses, and whose issue was like the issue of horses. In other words, this is borderline pornographic. Okay, if you read the New International Version of it, it's pretty disgusting. So in other words, in a spiritual sense, God is saying you let yourselves get screwed by donkeys whose phallus was the size of a horse. Okay, does that sound like God's chosen people? Okay, so now you're seeing how stupid theologically this all is. Now we jump to Jeremiah chapter 11. Okay, we can read about this, it's much more explicit. Let's just read through this real quick and read Jeremiah 11. The word that Jeremiah, hear the words of this covenant, and speak unto the man of Judah, cursed be the man that obeyeth not the words of this covenant. I mean, how much more explicit can it get? Jeremiah 11:2, cursed be the man that obeyeth not the words of this covenant, which I commanded your fathers in the day that I brought them forth out of the land of Egypt. We just read about how they behaved, for example, in Exodus 32, 2 minutes ago, we just read that, that I may perform the oath which I have sworn to give them a land flowing milk and honey, as it is day. Then I answered, and I said, so be it, Lord. Hear ye the words of this covenant and do them. Okay. And then it says they are turned back to the iniquities of their forefathers. Again, the people that God wanted to kill in a desert right there in Exodus 32. But anyway, the point of if you read through Jeremiah 11, just that one chapter, it just blows the whole idea of Israel as God's chosen people right out of the water. It's just ridiculous theology. For somebody to get on TV and say that people that support this so-called replacement theology, which means the church of the New Testament replaces Israel as God's chosen people, the Old Testament, and say that's wrong, is so ridiculous. I mean, that's the point of the whole New Testament. The word testament means covenant. New Testament, new covenant. I mean, what the hell are these people? Are these people that stupid, or are they just outright thieves or con men or both? Okay, so let's just jump. Again, you go to Matthew 2, Matthew 3. Okay, Matthew 2. Okay, who does King Herod? Okay, who was a half Jew, but he was more aligned with the Roman Empire. Okay, who does he go to? Okay, when they say the wise men come from Babylon. Okay, so even they knew. Okay, the formerly occultic Babylonians knew the time of Christ's arrival, but these so-called God's chosen people didn't have a clue. And who did King Herod go to? They went to the Pharisees. They didn't have a clue. That's the whole point of Matthew chapter 2. Okay, so the second chapter of the New Testament, the Jews are already in trouble. The second chapter of the New Testament. Okay, then you go to Matthew 3, and here's John the Baptist. Okay, the witness referenced at the end of the Old Testament, Malachi chapter 4, the Elijah that was to come. Okay, sidebar, Hal Lindsey and all the other biblical experts, there are no two witnesses that are going to be spewing fire and smoke in Jerusalem. Elijah's not going to come back. He already came back. That's made pretty explicit in Malachi 4, Matthew 3, Matthew 17. Okay, Jesus says, John was the Elijah that was to come. I mean, how do these people miss this stuff? It is beyond me. Okay, but anyway, he goes to the Pharisees and Sadducees, you generation of vipers, who have warned you to flee from the wrath to come? Bring forth fruits meet for repentance. In other words, produce believers for Jesus. They did just the opposite. Okay? Now, if you go back to Zechariah chapter 11, okay, in Zechariah 11, it says, my people, the Jews, both Judah, the southern kingdom, and Israel, the northern kingdom, who split, okay, the kingdoms, the Jewish people split into separate kingdoms. Okay, that's the whole idea of King Saul, all right? Right after that, okay, they split, okay? You had the 10 tribes in the northern kingdom of Israel, and then you had the Judah, I think it was Benjamin and the tribe of Judah, the southern kingdom. That's where Jesus came out of. But the point is, both the nations of Israel, okay, forsook the Lord. And it says right here in Zechariah 11, they covenant to me for 30 pieces of silver. Now, this is Zechariah in the Old Testament. And that ties directly into Matthew 26 and 27. Okay, in John chapter 13, it says Satan indwells Judas Iscariot. And in Matthew 27, he's covenanting with the Pharisees, God's chosen people, for 30 pieces of silver. It's written here in plain English in Zechariah 11. So how can you sit there and say that this is God's chosen people and they covenanted with Satan? I mean, I don't understand how people miss this. Okay, you go to Matthew 23, and Jesus calls the Pharisees, he calls them sons of hell. Okay, John chapter 8, he calls them the sons of the devil. Okay, well, he's talking to the Pharisees, but by Matthew 27, the Pharisees had convinced the Jews at large to condemn Jesus. Okay, his blood be on us and our children. Okay, that's right in Matthew 27. That's the crowd. God's chosen people had God in the flesh executed to try to get rid of him and kill him, shut him up. They didn't want to change their ways, which were wrong to begin with, which were based on whoredoms and Babylonian paganism. Okay, Ezekiel 23, which we just read. I don't know how much more clear this can be made. I mean, I don't understand what the debate is here. Okay. So it's just, it goes on and on and on, and if you read 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, it says, the Jews, they were harassing Paul and the budding Christian church. Okay. They harassed them from place to place, Acts 13 to 15. Okay. At Antioch, Iconium, and Lystra. Okay. So he refers to these three places. The Jews ran him out of town for preaching the gospel. This is God's chosen people. I mean, how stupid. So the point is, it's horrible, horrible theology. Okay, and I'm being generous. This is borderline criminal. Okay, people collecting money for Israel, love offerings for Israel. They're con men. I'll just make it plain and simple. I don't care. They get on TV. I don't care how many people are sitting in a mega church. They're just wrong. Okay, and this is important because if you go down that road, you're lost. Matthew 15, the blind leading the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. He just got done yelling at the Pharisees, calling them a bunch of hypocrites, quoting Isaiah. Okay, Isaiah chapter 6, the whole entire book of Isaiah, 90% of it, he's blasting, God's chosen people, Isaiah. Jesus himself is calling the Pharisees a bunch of hypocrites and blind guides. Falling into the ditch means symbolic of falling into the pit, the bottomless pit, or hell. Hence, Matthew 23, you were the children of hell. I mean, where's the gray area? Where's the debate in that? Okay, 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, I mean, the wrath of God is coming upon, the Jews to the uttermost. That's Paul. After he'd been converted. Remember, Paul had to be converted, extracted out of the Jewish religion and taught the word of God by the Holy Spirit. Okay, that's in Galatians chapter 1. All right, and I'm just barely scratching the surface here, but I mean, just barely scratching the surface. It's just ridiculous. Okay, it's really, again, it's somewhere between just idiotic to outright, just criminal from a biblical standpoint. These are wolves in sheep's clothing. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. So anyway, this is important because if you follow this, if you listen to these people, you have no clue. You're sitting around right here in 2017 while the world is on the verge of World War III with, between the Western world and Islam, okay, and Russia, and just this conflagration and economic collapse and just outright chaos, okay, which is predicted. Remember, we read about that in the Occult Conspiracy on my website, boxofsunglasses.com. You can read about the occult conspiracy and Albert Pike and the 3 world wars and the premeditated war, which we're on the verge of, okay, where the world is going to kill itself. And, by 90%, the population is going to reduce by 90% so they can rise out of the ashes, the phoenix rising out of the ashes, per the Georgia Guidestones brought to us by Robert Christian, the Rose plus the Cross, which we just looked at with the Invisible College. These people just missed that whole thing. When you focus on Israel and the Arabs, and you ignore everything, you ignore this. You ignore what's driving current events. You ignore the Federal Reserve System. It's so stupid. and they're just, people are just lost. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, it's just, this is the whole point of the, the 10 plagues. Okay, they were directed against the Nile River and the crops of Egypt, and the firstborn of Egypt, the killing of the firstborn. What do you think that's symbolic of? It's symbolic of killing, the Pharaoh's firstborn. Remember, the firstborn of Pharaoh, the first male, was supposedly in the manifestation of the son of the sun god Osiris or Isis, which is Horus, or the Pharaoh. That's what God was getting at. He wasn't some genocidal maniac. That's the real conflict here. It's not Arabs versus Israel. Israel's not God's chosen people. Okay. And again, I can go on for hours, but if you just by reading those passages I mentioned, John 13, John 8, Matthew 3, Matthew 23, okay, 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, all right, just for starters, Exodus 32, Ezekiel 23, Jeremiah 11, Zechariah 11, whatever, those eight or nine chapters I just read, I just reviewed, that's barely scratching the surface. Okay. Anyway, as far as Trump goes, he's going to get ambushed if he gets in. Okay, the Federal Reserve banks are just waiting. The manipulators, the real controllers, okay, the money changers, the Jewish money changers, okay, the allies of the Pharisees. Remember, Jesus chased those guys at the temple with whips. The God's chosen people, a bunch of con men sitting in the Jewish temple. All right. Jesus chases them out with whips. God's chosen people. What a joke. But anyway, they're descendants. The descendants of the modern day money changers are going to crash the economy to their liking in their time frame, in God's time frame, I believe. But Trump's just a man. Okay, he's a slight step back towards America of old, but no. Anyway, and don't forget God's Simple Salvation Plan on the site boxofsunglasses.com. Not sure if I'm going to make it back on Thursday. I might have a work obligation, but I do my best to get on here Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And again, the YouTube channel archives are available. If I'm not broadcasting live, and you can go back, and there's descriptions there on that. Good night and God bless.